Hello, everyone. My name is Benton Hawken, and today I'll be presenting on the OSHA Fall Protection Training, aka 29 CFR 1926.503A1. Um, this standard focuses on making sure employees are properly trained to recognize fall hazards and understand how to prevent them. Falls are one of the leading causes of serious injuries in the workplace, especially in the construction industry. So this training is extremely important. We'll move on to the next slide. So according to OSHA, employees are required to provide training for any employee who may be exposed to fall hazards. This training must help workers recognize potential dangers and teach them the correct procedures to minimize their risk. This applies especially in construction and any job where employees are working at extreme heights or near open edges. Um, and right, yep, it goes over everything. Move on to the next slide. Um, For this, we're going to be talking about why fall protection is critical. Um, Fall protection is critical because falls are one of the leading causes of workplace deaths every year. Many of those accidents happen from roofs, ladders, or even scaffolds right here. Um, Proper training significantly reduces injuries and deaths, so it's very crucial that they get trained in this so they prevent more injuries and deaths. Because you'd be surprised at the numbers of how many deaths they have. And the important thing is that most of these incidents are preventable with proper training and the right equipment. Awareness is really the first step in preventing these injuries. It's really easy to prevent, but you'd be surprised at how many people make mistakes. You know, we're human, right? On to the next slide. These are some common fall hazards here. Um, the roof works without the guardrails. Excluding the guardrails, just roof work in general. That's a very popular one that people unfortunately have, falls or whatnot. Um, some common fall hazards include unprotected edges, open floors, and then the roof work that we talked about. Without proper protection, of course. Ladders are also a major hazard, especially if they're used incorrectly or are damaged. I know we had some people already talk about the ladders and whatnot, but yeah, ladders are very common as well. You got step ladder and different kinds of ladders that you need different exercises to climb them correctly, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but um, that prevents a lot of injuries. Scaffolding can also be dangerous if it's not built properly. Um, and even something as simple as a slippery surface can lead to serious falls. Like if it rains at a work site, you obviously want to be more cautious about where you're walking, right? Um, so yeah, next slide here. Um, got some high risk situations. Um, we got some simple stuff like working at heights above 6 feet. It's kind of common sense, right? Certain situations increase the risk of falling even more. Um, Climbing ladders frequently and working near floor openings. It's kind of common sense. You don't want to see a hole, you don't want to go near a hole in the ground, you know. I mean, you're just asking for stuff to happen, but that's why situational awareness is a key factor in preventing fall hazards and stuff like that. Bad weather conditions, like rain or wind, can also increase the risk, especially like we said before, if the surfaces are slippery, you know, very dangerous. You don't really think of it. I mean, you may think to walk a little slower, but some people just don't. They don't think. You know, carrying heavy materials while working at extreme heights, you know, can throw you off balance and maybe lead to accidents. Unfortunately, so you wanna be cautious about how much you're lifting and like if you're gonna climb a surface, be like, all right, I obviously can't carry 30 pounds while 12 feet in the air or something like that, you know. Maybe you can, maybe you're that good, you know. But for most people, not gonna be able to do that, right? It's gonna be kind of tough. So, all right, move to the next slide here. We're gonna be talking about the fall prevention equipment, different equipment to use to help minimize hazards in the force. Um, there are several types of equipment designed to prevent falls or reduce injuries. Seven main things. Obviously, they got countless of them, but the seven main ones I'll be talking about. We got the guardrails. Guardrails is fairly common. They help prevent workers from reaching dangerous edges, you know. And then safety nets. Safety nets is a good one. You know, they catch workers if the fall occurs, and little fun addition, even though I mean, it's related to safety, but not related to work environment. You know, a common place you see safety nets would be at Topgolf. Um, in case you accidentally fall, there's a safety net right there. You know, thankfully. So that's a really good example of a safety net design. Um, we got the personal fall arrest systems, which in short is the PFAS. It's very good. And then a full body harness and shock absorbing lanyards. A harness is pretty common around work sites. If you're at extreme levels of height, right? That benefits a lot. Um, and then you want to make sure you got secure anchor points capable of supporting loads. Then we'll move on to the next slide. And we're going to be talking about the proper way to use this equipment. Um, so you want to inspect all equipment before each use. You know, it's kind of common sense. Make sure everything's strapped on, every little knobs turned or buckles on, right? Um, and having equipment is not enough. You also have to use it correctly, right? Um, it's a little simple saying, but it really hits you hard because it's a wake up call. Um, all equipment should be inspected before use. Make sure it's not damaged, right? Um, harnesses, harnesses in particular need to fit properly, and lanyards must be attached to secure anchor points. Um, excuse me. You don't want to have a loose anchor point because that's just disaster waiting to happen. Um, and it's also important to always follow the OSHA guidelines and manufacturer instructions of whatever company you're in. Different companies have different guidelines of safety, even though most of them have the same, but you never know the work environment you're in. All right, we'll move to slide 8 now, which talks about the training program and the different elements in it. A good training program should include several key elements, and we'll talk about that shortly. Um, Workers need to learn how to identify hazards, use equipment correctly, and follow safe work practices, everyday practices about safety. Because, I mean, even if it's not work related, everywhere you go, safety follows you. You got to make sure you're safe at all, whether it's like a bigger step than usual on a little staircase or something like that. You got to be sure you're cautious about those things. Um, we talked about the correct use of stuff, right? Correct use of fire protection systems. Got to understand the OSHA regulations, right? The emergency response procedures. If something bad happens, you need to know who to contact so you can, if you're like badly hurt or anything like that, you don't want to just be like a deer in headlights, not know what you're doing, right? You want to make sure other people in the company know what's happening and stuff like that, and so they can assist you. Um, and then yeah, like we just said, reporting hazards. You got to report it. If you see a hazard, you want to report it so it doesn't linger on to the next worker that may be in the same shoes as you, you know. Um, so let's move on to the employer responsibilities, right? Um, the employees also have responsibilities when it comes to safety, obviously. They must follow all the procedures, use the equipment provided, and report any unsafe conditions. Any, man. It might be like a little crack in the sidewalk where you work, or like something big. No matter how small, you need to report it because you never know what small thing can cause a big inconvenience on someone. Um, you want to ensure that the equipment is available and maintained. Monitor compliance and safety procedures, and you want to retrain workers when hazards change. You want to let them know, as we talked about, and you want to maybe jot this down. You just want to know what's going on in the company at all times. If there's a lot of safety problems, it's not a good look, right? And you want to be like, hey, maybe I should not work here anymore and stuff like that. So yeah, just keep in mind with stuff. Responsibilities go a long way. Um, and then the conclusion. In conclusion, fraud protection is essential in preventing workplace injuries and deaths. Proper training, awareness, and the use of the right equipment all play a role in keeping workplaces safe. And at the end of the day, safety is everyone's responsibility. Um, so yeah, thank you all for listening and have a great day.